Welcome to Next of Kin, the podcast. I'm your host Emma, a British expat, toddler mum and business owner living in Dubai. Join me for candid conversations about expat motherhood, business and everything in between. I've invited some incredible guests to join me this season who you are really going to want to know about. So let's jump straight in. I feel like I started this season in kind of a strange way. I maybe should have done a catch-up solo episode, but honestly, I was really in the thick of it when I launched season 3. So welcome back. It's just me today, a solo episode, no guest, but we're going to have a good catch-up. There's hope on the horizon now. I really couldn't, when I was in the thick of everything that was going on when I launched season 3, I feel like I couldn't sit down and make this episode because I just didn't know what to say at all. It was probably one of the most stressful, probably the most stressful period of my life over the last 6 months. And I've had a few comments lately about how I'm so good at juggling it all. And I feel like I owe it to you guys here on the podcast to keep it real. I'm actually a bit annoyed at myself for even appearing as someone who has got life figured out, because that is not me. Like, you need to look around my bedroom right now, which is where I'm recording. My microphone is precariously perched on the top of a box. My bed is covered in clean washing that I need to sort. And I have a mattress just chilling to the side of me here. So I am not a person that has their life figured out and has their ish together. I'm sure long-term listeners know, but I'm really just a very normal person, and I try to keep it very real for you here because I don't want to contribute to that feeling of comparison, like everyone else has their stuff together and you don't. I know far more who are on the edge of burnout, trust me. So let's really get into it today. I last recorded an episode months ago now, before summer, I guess. So I'm so excited to get chatting to you and catch you all up. So as I alluded to, the last few months have been a roller coaster. I'm going to be a little vague with details here because although you all know I'm quite an open book here on the podcast about my life, my motherhood journey, my career journey, there's other people involved here and I want to be respectful to them. But essentially, we spent a lovely summer over in the UK with family. I said I would work whilst I was there, but somehow it's just impossible. I would maximum get an hour a day, and to be honest, that was probably really good for me. It was really good for me. So Bonnie had the loveliest time. She was able to really spend the full 5 weeks bonding with her family, and it was honestly just the most special thing to see. It was the best part of being back, was just seeing her build those bonds with family members. It's such a contrast when you go back to the UK at that time of year, because we're obviously having to stay inside in Dubai over summer. I know plenty of people get up early in summer to go outside, walk, go to the beach, but I think you're all mad because it's still way too hot for me, even at 5 a.m, I swear. So then going back to the UK, we were there when it was actually lovely and warm, and there was just so much nature to explore. I mean, at one point, I had taken her out. I think Rich was busy doing something for an hour and a half. So I took Bonnie out, and it was quite a wet day. So we went out, we put our rain jackets on, and we were gone for a full hour and a half. And in that time, we'd barely gone far at all. We had 15 minutes splashing in a puddle. Then we were searching for slugs. Then we were picking blackberries. It's just idyllic, isn't it? I think that one of my last solo episodes, I was getting real with you about screen time. But whilst we were back, she literally had 0. Not in the car, nothing. So I was kind of wishing I hadn't put that out there because I was like, oh no, now I'm the perfect mum. But no, we got back to the UAE and the screen was back in our lives. So being back was lovely, and we were able to bury our heads a bit from what was really going on under the surface and what we were coming back to. When we did get back, things got stressful. Our yearly rent renewal was coming up within weeks, so we had to make a decision on whether we were even staying in Dubai or not. I've alluded to it on social media, but not really been able to speak about it because I've been in the thick of it. We genuinely didn't know if we were staying in Dubai or we were going to have to leave. And if we were going to have to leave, I mean, within weeks. I tell you what's funny is that we had days left to make this decision. We'd actually told ourselves that if nothing had changed by a certain date in September that we had to leave, we couldn't renew our rent. So I got to that point where I was literally asking the universe to tell me what to do. And I said, if I see these 3 numbers in a sequence, I'll stay. And these 3 numbers in a sequence, I know that it's telling me to go. Ridiculous, I know, but I was literally at the end of my tether. Like, I was an anxious wreck morning, noon and night because I just didn't know what was happening. But I didn't see any of these numbers, so the universe wasn't helping me at all. And then one day I'm sat in traffic and I'm really, on the edge at this point. And I see the number plate of the car in front of me is the 3 numbers that I had said to myself, or to the universe. I don't know how I asked the universe. I'd said it to myself that if I see these 3 numbers, it means that I should stay. And I'm just thinking, yes, thank you so much. It's a sign. That's what I really want. Then not even 1 minute later, I look left. I don't want to see anything at this point. I look left and there's a phone number printed on the side of a van and it has the 3 numbers to leave glaring at me. And I'm just thinking, right, okay, the universe is definitely listening. Something's happening up there and they're having a right laugh at me right now. So thanks for that. So perhaps it was on that day or sort of around that day that we're actually sat in the car whilst Bonnie is sleeping and we have a chat and we make this decision that we have to leave. It's the obvious decision. It's too risky to stay. We talk about the next steps. I agree to call the landlord and let him know. And then I just sit there and I go, I don't want to. Like I'm frozen. I can't bring myself to call the landlord. Rich couldn't bring himself to do his things that he said either. And lo and behold, we're still here. We took the gamble. I'm laughing at it all now, but it got so serious that I did have the posts made on Canva ready to post that basically put next of kin up for sale. I didn't post them, obviously, but that's how things have been behind the scenes the last half of the year. And I tell you what, it's really hard to show up when things are like this and be the person to push the business forwards. I haven't had proper childcare, but also not knowing when that would change, which meant that it was really hard to sign up to do things. I recently listened to a podcast with the founder of Say on Grace Beverley's Working Hard, Hardly Working podcast. I'm such a fangirl of Grace Beverley at the moment. But she was basically saying that the hardest part of being a mum and an entrepreneur is that you can't work all night, sleep in on weekends, take all the opportunities, because it's actually more important to give your children that time than it is your business. And that's something I definitely have mentioned here before on the podcast, but also at this time of year, which is the busiest for a retail business like mine, you'll see all the other people and all the other brands taking these amazing opportunities, doing things, launching things, collaborating, doing things that you'd love to do, but you simply don't have the capacity. You don't have the resources. You don't know if you're going to be here in a month's time. So that's felt really hard. And often people ask me what the hardest part of business is. And I think that for me, and maybe for all mums, I don't know, but I find something really difficult is the external factors within a family. You launch a business thinking it can be this way and you can create a whole strategy. But as we can tell from what's been going on the last few months, I might not even be here. So I then can't pull more resources in, or I might have a child that's ill for a month, which happened to me last December, actually. And I needed to be with her and, plans had to stop. And so that's what I have found has made business really hard. On the other hand, though, it has forced me to put less effort into my business and be much more intentional with my time. I'm not doing everything for free now. I'm starting to really value my time. At the start of creating a business, you do a lot for free, of course. And I mean, part of that is that I now have the podcast sponsored sometimes. Rest assured, any company that I mention, I'm truly so happy to promote. I'm really not charging them very much. So I'm really happy to speak about them. And that's why I want to keep my prices kind of low so that I can speak about companies that I really want to and that they align with, my values. But again, that is all about valuing my own time and effort. And I think that has been a really good thing. That time that I spoke about over summer where I was forced to barely do any work, that sort of led into this quite nicely. So that really brings me on to why I've stopped designing. So I've mentioned this just a couple of times on social media, but you've probably seen that I'm launching new brands on the website, not new stock of next of kin. Now, back at the start of the year, I did design a whole new collection. And although I spread my risk when it came to suppliers, I did run into issues with factories who had maybe low MOQs and low prices to get me in initially and then just ramp them up. Or I found that I didn't like their quality. I had a whole host of issues that got me down from, I think, 5 factories to 1 that I would work with. And that one couldn't produce the kind of clothing that I wanted to make in this collection. Unfortunately, this is super common. It is something that you will probably come up against, factory issues, if you are a product-based business. But I went ahead, I got some samples made with one factory, and guys, I know I've mentioned it here before, but they were awful and it took so long. The samples were basically unsalvageable and they were just downright bad. Like, I'm not working with a factory that would happily send me that. So I released Rascal Squad before summer, and that was with a brand new factory based here in the UAE, which was my strategy. I would love to produce all in the UAE, but I really haven't come across a factory that could do that could do the quality that I needed, the fabrics I needed, especially with baby wear. Quality needs to be really good. This is what I'm all about with this brand. I was actually recommended this factory from another brand, so I had so much hope, but things just did not go well. So I put my merchandiser hat on, back from my days in head office, and I think, right, let's have a look at all the stock here, let's have a look at the numbers. And at this point, I had started adding other brands as well to the website. This is sort of June time, when everything just went a little bit sideways in my life. I knew that I simply just wouldn't have the time to design, and actually needed to be very careful cash flow wise with investing it in new stock at that point. So just before we went away for summer, that's when I took this decision to completely stop designing and not working on any more developments. I think sometimes when these things happen, like the samples just being horrific and just everything around product design hitting constant roadblocks, that you have to think to yourself, is this all happening for a reason? Perhaps this is a sign. The universe doesn't want to give me signs about numbers and what I should do next, whether I should stay in Dubai. But perhaps this is a very big sign that this is feeling way too hard. It shouldn't be this hard. And do you know what I really love? I really love and enjoy discovering these new brands to add to the website. This is so much fun to me. So as much as I might decide to start redesigning, I might go and look at that collection all over again and release that at some point. Maybe I also won't. Now, my word of the year for 2024 is definitely pivot. I'm getting bored of even saying pivot. You hear me saying this constantly in my journey. Again, another very cringy word, isn't it? Journey, my journey so far. But this is why it's so important. And this is yet another demonstration of that. Maybe my efforts need to go more into podcasting. Maybe they need to go more into events, more into finding new brands, new categories of brands to add to the website. So my focus from Jan is going to be strategizing and how I can pivot, of course, more into the online sales. And I know I've mentioned the online sales, the SEO, the digital marketing before, but I haven't had the time. Honestly, I haven't had the time to look into it as much as I would like to do. So that's going to be back top of my list for the start of next year. So do I feel inspired to design at the moment? Yes, I do. I actually feel like my creativity is luckily being channeled in other ways, but it doesn't mean that I don't keep coming up with new designs in my head or spotting new niches. Often though, I find that I'm then finding a brand that I feel like fulfills that niche and that I don't actually need to design. Often I'll notice that like a few weeks or a month later. So I don't feel bad about the decision to stop designing and releasing newness. Technically, I have the newness of the other brands, right? Actually, that said, I do have one particular product that I am just itching to do. And I wonder if it's maybe a potential brand collab moment. So not doing it on my own, but getting another brand on board. And I haven't acted on that yet. So let's see. And when I say I haven't acted on that, I haven't even put pen to paper, but it's at the back of my mind. Now, I'm not going to go much deeper now because I feel like otherwise this is going to be a kind of negative offloading onto you. So rest assured, I am doing well. The family are doing well. Things are looking great from January onwards. There's going to be a whole new phase of life starting. I have some really cool projects on the horizon, and actually we are heading back to the UK now for a very special wedding, which means we'll be back over Christmas, spending time with the family. Honestly, I'm not so thrilled about being back in the cold and missing the amazing Dubai weather, but it'll be so lovely for Bonnie to have Christmas in the UK. And before you ask, no, it's not my wedding, still very much a work in progress. Is it even a work in progress on that front if I haven't done any planning? I did try on wedding dresses though the other day, and that was really fun. I want to do that again, but have I done anything since? Have I found a venue or have any sort of idea of what wedding I want? No. I really don't like how much weddings cost. So I think that if we do finally get around to doing it, maybe we need to think outside the box. And as you can tell from this episode, I don't have any more capacity in my box of a brain to add anything in right now. Now, before we wrap up sort of the entrepreneurial, mumpreneurial side of my life, let's be honest about how business has been this year, or this season, let's say this season, because I definitely have found that sales have been down since last year. And I want to put that out there because I know a lot of other small brands that I've spoken to have found that. Obviously, a lot of that for me is going to be that I didn't go out and do as many markets and things like that as I did before. And of course, I'm not releasing a whole new collection like I was this time last year. But a lot of small businesses are finding this time really difficult. I guess there's cost of living, that affects us here in Dubai as well. People aren't being quite so free with their money. I also haven't had the time to focus on my business like I did this time last year. And with all the stress that's been bubbling under the surface, maybe I haven't been able to be as creative. Maybe I haven't shown up in the same sort of enthusiastic, exciting way as I did before. But one thing about having this podcast and this platform is that people look up to me as if they think I'm an authority figure in business and know what I'm doing. So that's the reason that I am so honest with you here, because if you're going through the exact same thing, which most businesses that I'm speaking to are right now, I want you to know that it's not easy out there, and I'm not finding it easy, and I don't have the answers. And actually, I want people who copy me to know that as well. Funnily enough, when I started the business, I had people saying, you will be copied. And I was like, no, I won't. Why would people copy me? I'm just doing my thing. I'm not copying anyone. I haven't been copied. Like, some people literally get their name and everything copied, don't they? Which is mad to me to think that someone would go and put that kind of effort into just copying someone. Just do your own thing. I haven't been copied that way, but I've had people actually say to my face, oh, I was looking at this, that, or the other, or I was listening to your podcast and thinking about like what ideas I want to copy for my business, like literally saying those words. So I don't feel rude saying it, but people do try and copy or emulate what I'm doing in different ways. And just know that I don't have all the answers. So come up with your own ideas. No, I'm joking. So let's move on from mumpreneuring and the entrepreneurship next of kin side of thing. On the motherhood front, I now have a 2-year-old. If I've got any new mums here who are being told negative things like, soak this up, it just gets harder, or just you wait till the terrible twos, let me tell you, I love this age so much. I find it's getting better and better because Bonnie can communicate. She's developing this amazing little personality. It's such a fun phase. Of course she has tantrums, absolutely. Maybe I'll get a toddler whisperer on the podcast at some point. If you know one, tell me. I will get them on the podcast for us all. Maybe a psychologist, maybe someone like that. But feel free to give me a few suggestions. But Bonnie's current tantrums are sort of sudden, loud, dramatic, then over. And so I'm definitely getting better at setting the boundaries in a clear way and understanding that she might kick off and that that's absolutely fine. She might not like that boundary that I'm setting, but I'm still going to do that. And I found that those boundaries do help her feel safe by knowing that we are the ones in control and not her. So, that said, I think I'm still quite a lenient parent. I guess a huge change has been that I've stopped breastfeeding. I had a very greedy milk lover, and I actually feel so weird to say that I was still breastfeeding even like 2 months ago, because I cannot imagine that I was still breastfeeding, even though it's not even been that long. I look at her now and think, I can't believe I literally breastfed you 2 months ago. But stopping that has been a lot hormone-wise. So mums, let's talk about it. Let's talk about those postpartum hormones. For me, it's marked the return of things that I had wrong with me pre-pregnancy. So that's a whole nearly 3 years ago now. And for me, that's manifested in sort of like lowering my immune response to things. My doctor did try to explain this to me, so I'm not going to try and explain it back because I don't understand. But the hormonal thing during pregnancy, postpartum breastfeeding, stopped things like the worst of my eczema. And I'm now sat here with bright red, puffy, itchy eyes. Another issue that I'm not going to speak into existence right now because it hasn't returned badly, but I get twinges of. But that was more of a chronic condition that I'm just not speaking into existence. I really don't want to go back onto that medication, so we're just not acknowledging it. But eczema remedies, safe for my eyelids, please do send my way. The best remedy I have so far is breast milk, which is super strange. I have a tiny bit left in the freezer, but I think I'm going to need some alternatives for that. But it's got me thinking the last few days how crazy it is that we say postpartum is 6 weeks after having a baby. Absolutely not. 6 weeks, I was still a complete mess, having a lovely time in my newborn bubble, but a complete mess. I found personally for me, I think we have to remember that I also breastfed for so long. So I breastfed exclusively. She breastfed a lot as well. I think my body thought I had twins. I ramped that down from 18 months. And she was still a lot more into milk than food for a very long time. So 18 months, I stopped feeding in the day, I believe, because she was guzzling all the way through her nap. If I unlatched her, she would just wake up. So she would sometimes be latched to me for 3 hours for a nap. Mad, I know. Mad for me to even think back to this, that I actually did that. It's crazy what we'll do as mums, isn't it? So I ramped that down at 18 months, and that resulted in me feeling a bit different and having, I guess like a hormone surge or drop or whatever was going on with me hormonally from 20 months. That really felt to me like I was coming out of postpartum at 20 months. I'm now 2 years and 2 months on. So what's that? 26 months. And I gave up breastfeeding at 2 years. At that point, we were down just to a small feed before bed. She wasn't getting much at all, but that's when it completely stopped at 2 years. And 2 months on from that, I feel all up and down. I don't know if I'm going back to the person I was pre-pregnancy, and some bad bits of that. I feel within the last week that I've been quite grumpy and I haven't had a filter, which is something I actually experienced during pregnancy, is that I could flip over something and I couldn't keep it in. So you don't want to be getting in my way at the moment. But those hormones are still going on. I don't know if this is the new me or whether they're still going to settle after giving up breastfeeding. But gosh, postpartum being 6 weeks, guys, what a joke. What a joke. I'd love to hear. Do come and drop me a message. I'm at emmacoulter.insta, or obviously at nextofkin.ae on Instagram. Do drop me a message. I'd love to hear the different ways that people experience this. Especially, I'm sure if you didn't breastfeed, maybe you had a shorter postpartum feeling period before you got back to feeling your normal hormonal self. But if not, I'd love to hear that as well. Okay, other than feeding though, sleep was my big hurdle, wasn't it, that we always speak about on here. And that still sucks. Despite giving up breastfeeding all night. So if you're someone that's thinking of giving up breastfeeding so that you can sleep again, don't bother. I gave up and she still doesn't sleep. No, she does, but not without me. And I keep hearing this from so many mums at the moment. So can we all just be a lot more open about sleep, please? Whenever I speak to a mum with a 2-year-old lately, they're always complaining about sleep. Even those who have done some brutal sleep training regime or something. So I'm starting to think that if your 2-year-old does sleep, that's not normal. I don't like that the narrative's the other way around, because my 2-year-old still sucks at sleeping. So there we are. That's the end of the episode. I really hope that me being super honest with my account of life at the moment helps you feel better about your own bumps and things that are not going quite so straightforward for you in whatever you're going through right now. I have some really fabulous dream guests. In fact, I've got someone that's hopefully coming on the podcast that's been requested multiple times. So do make sure you're following the podcast and take care over the Christmas months. I will be back hopefully with something new for you in January. As you can tell, my life's still all a bit up in the air, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be consistently releasing bi-weekly episodes or what I'm going to do from this point onwards, but I will definitely be back and be in your ears, so make sure that you are following along. Until then, you can follow me on nextofkin.ae on Instagram. You can shop online at nextofkin.ae with the code podcast10 for 10% off, and follow my new personal Instagram, emmacoulter.insta. Until next time, take care.